what I've been watching myself do in relationships with other people, when I see that there's a conflict between us, is I keep watching myself hooking into their issues and making it about me, instead of stepping back and being neutral with it and allowing them to go through whatever process they need.
That's the idea. I mean, the idea is always, before you do anything with a situation or with a relationship, that you must look at yourself. And you also, it's very important to respect other people's decisions, even if they're ego ones. In a sense, that's what you get with Jesus throughout this whole course. You always get the idea that he's respecting the power of our mind, even when we choose wrongly. He doesn't abuse us, he doesn't criticize us, he doesn't put guilt on us. He basically says, I'll wait patiently until you choose again. And my patience is infinite. And it's very important that you respect the mind of other people to choose the ego. Because if you don't respect their power to choose wrongly, you are denigrating that mind's power that one day will choose correctly. That doesn't mean you have to agree with what they're doing. It doesn't mean that you don't behaviorally say something or intervene if that seems loving and it's not coming from your ego. But it does mean that you have to respect the power of their mind to choose wrong-mindedness. Otherwise, you are not respecting the only thing in the universe that could save them, which is the power of their mind to correct itself. And the way that you do that, at the beginning, is that you don't take their attacks personally. That's very, very important, that you don't let their egos take you away from the peace of God within. And to the extent that you could remain peaceful within, that peace, if it's truly the peace of God, will embrace everyone, including whoever the person is that you're having difficulty with. And then you won't be motivated to change them. You'll be motivated to love them. And they would experience that love and they would experience that kindness, and that's what would say to them, I could choose again too. And that's particularly difficult when you're in a relationship with someone who means something to you that you could see is choosing wrongly. I mean, parents have this all the time, obviously. Teachers have it, therapists have it. Anybody in a position of helping has it. When people that you care about obviously do things that are harmful to others or to themselves. And that doesn't mean, again, you don't intervene. But if you're intervening from your ego, it's to help you, not to help them. And it's really important, once again, not to take it personally. And many times, love means letting people make their own mistakes. Because that's the only way they'll be able to learn. If you deprive them of their mistakes, this is especially true, I think, with children. If you deprive them of their mistakes, you deprive them of the classroom in which they could learn eventually not to make mistakes. The worst thing parents, teachers, or adults of any kind can do with a child is lose it. When you get angry at a child, which is different from being disciplined and firm, etc., and setting limits. When you get angry at a child, you have said to that child, you are right. You have changed God. You have taken mommy and daddy, who were so loving and kind, and you've changed them into people who get as insane as you. They throw temper tantrums too, just like you do. It's the worst thing you could do for a child. Because you are proving to them their worst fear is true. You're saying you have an omnipotent ego. That's the grandiosity of the ego. You have an omnipotent ego. Look what you can do. You're all powerful. You could take me and you have power over me to render me into a screaming idiot. When you make someone angry, you have become God. You have changed someone else. The guilt over that is enormous because it reminds you of the original change that you instituted. When the ego changed God. Not in reality, but in its dream. That's the beginning of the ego's dream. In reality, nothing happened. God knows nothing about the dream. God knows nothing about his angry, guilty, sinful, insane son. God only knows himself and his son as an extension of himself. That's all God knows. God knows perfect oneness because there's nothing else. Well, because we could not truly change God, we had to make up a God whom we could change. Right? An earlier chapter also talks about that and says, when we demanded special favor from God and He did not give it, which is the favor, we asked God to acknowledge our individuality, to acknowledge us as a separated thing, independent of Him. When God would not do that, would not grant us that special favor, we made of Him an unloving Father. That's what the passage says. In other words, we said, all right, this God doesn't work for me anymore. I'm going to make a God who does work for me. A God who gets angry. Because the true God doesn't recognize what doesn't exist. So we made up a God who will recognize what doesn't exist. Us. We'll make a God who counts the hairs on our head. Loves us more than the sparrows or the lilies of the field. We'll make a God who believes in sin, but then has this wonderfully redemptive plan, murder, of redeeming us from sin. Right? Smart, right? What's incredible is that people have believed this. But people have believed it because that's the ego thought system everyone believes in, whether they're Jews, Christians, Muslims, Hindus, or atheists, it doesn't matter. Everyone believes it. What Jesus wants us to do in this course is see how ludicrous this thought system is. Not how sinful, not how horrific, how ludicrous, how silly. That's when he talks about the gentle laughter that looks at all this and smiles. It says, this can't be. But we say, yes, it is, each and every time we get angry, each and every time we get critical of someone, each and every time we find fault, let alone get enraged at someone. That's what we're saying. We're saying this thought system is true. The only hope is for someone not to take you seriously, not to give you power over them, so they demonstrate to you another thought system. And again, take Jesus as your model. He tells us early on in the text, take me as your model for learning. Well, one very helpful model He is for us is to watch how He is with us through this course. He is very clear about what's a mistake and what's not a mistake. Very clear. Very clear that a mistake is not a sin. But He's also very clear about the love with which He approaches us that allows us to make mistakes if we're too afraid of the truth. You never have the feeling as you read through this that He's condemning you or waving an accusing finger at you because you don't do the workbook right, or you read the text upside down and don't understand what you're reading and then do the exact opposite of what He says. You never have the sense that He's judging you or condemning you. He says early in the text, I will respect what you made because you made it. I will not uphold it because it is not true, but I'll respect what you made. And as he explains to us, the ego makes. Spirit creates, the ego makes. So I'll respect what you made, but I will not uphold it because it is not true. But I will respect it. And so you take that as your motto. Respect the choices that people close to you make or other people make. If you really want to be a loving instrument, if you want to be an instrument of change, then you would realize that meaningful change only occurs on the level of the mind. Only occurs on the level of the mind. And so that's where you want to gently lead this person. Not by your words necessarily, but by how you are. Your quiet defenselessness speaks volumes. Your quiet defenselessness says to the other person, the same choice I made, you could make. You have a wrong mind and a right mind, choose again. That's what Jesus says practically on every page in this book.